Now. So, how's it going, everyone? Before I hear, welcome to Heliopolis Radio. We have been fortunate enough to be joined by Jeff Weber. He has been studying the AIM investment technique for quite some time, and he's evolved this technique, and he's actually helped a lot of people that invest with him generate a large amount of profit. And so, Jeff is kindly willing to share a bit about the AIM technique and how he's evolved it into his own personal method. And he's also here to share a bit about himself. So, Jeff, without further ado, I'll hand it over to you. And yeah, go ahead, tell us about yourself.
Okay.
How
Okay.
long have
Thank
you been
you.
investing, and kind of what made you start trading
Okay.
stocks?
Well, I I actually got started investing when I was 8 years old and convinced my dad to buy me a few shares of Erie Lackawanna Railroad.
Hmm.
And it was at $2.62. He managed to buy me 5 shares. I was hoping he'd buy me 100 shares because I had that much money in my savings account, but he didn't. Well, long story short, he put 5 shares in my Christmas stocking in 1955. I was thrilled, five is better than nothing. And so, long story short, 6 months later, the Penn Central Railroad bought the Erie Lackawanna Railroad and redeemed every share of Erie Lackawanna stock for $16. So I got a check for $80. A lot of money for an 8-year-old in
Yeah,
1955
definitely,
when money
definitely.
hadn't been inflated. Well, but I started thinking to myself, if my dad had listened to me and bought the 100 shares, I would have gotten a check for $1,600, which is like $1 million to an 8-year-old in 1955. Let me tell you,
Wow.
prices were much cheaper back then. You won't remember, but I do. And so, but he gave me the burning ambition to realize investing was the only way the average person has a chance to live the kind of life that they're from their job, especially now that jobs don't come with pensions anymore.
Hmm.
The Army in 1983, and that that was 30 benefit pension plan. So I started looking around, for a way to invest for other people who don't have the luxury of having a pension like I do, to
Hmm.
find a way to replace the pension they'll never get.
Hmm.
You need a large sum of money. I mean, so far with my pension, I collect $70,000 a year, and I've collected it for 8 years. So I've
Wow.
already collected well over $500,000.
Hmm.
You need a great way to invest to replace that level of money
Yes.
out there. And I have found it with AIM. I used to haunt used bookstores all the time, and I would always be looking for investing books, and I stumbled upon Robert Lochellos' investing book in a used bookstore in Tucson, Arizona,
Hmm.
and read it and reread it and reread it, and figured out it was the perfect way, because what he teaches, in essence, is a contrary investing method.
Hmm.
What does that mean? That means you always buy low and sell high.
Hmm.
So I'll give you a quick example here how AIM would work.
Yeah.
You found is stocks do not work well because they're not volatile enough. But there's this wonderful investing vehicle called Leaps, and all a Leap is an option that has more than 1 year before it expires, and it expires on the third Friday in January. So right
Hmm.
now I have my people buying January 16th, 2026 options, which means they have a little over two
Two
years
years, two
before
years
they
roughly.
expire.
Yeah.
So, and here's the essence of how AIM would work. Let's say you buy an option for $10. Okay. You're looking for a buy price lower. And I have found from experience, 25% is a good lower price. So if you bought, say, 20 contracts at $10, I would tell you if that option goes down to
Oh, it's 50 cents.
$7.50 for 25% drop, you would want to buy 4 or 5 more contracts. And at the same time, if that option goes from $10 to about $13, $14, you would want to sell 2 or 3 of those options. And then every time you have a buy or sell, you adjust the next buy and sell. So if you have a buy at 750, your next buy is going to be lower by 25%. Say it might be around $5.50, something like that. And your sell price would drop from 13 to maybe 11, because the beauty of AIM investing is it's a sophisticated dollar cost averaging system involving buying and selling. So think about it. If you bought this, the simplest example would be if you bought 15 contracts at $10 and then bought 15 contracts at $5, now your break-even point is $7.50. So if the combined 30 options gets above $7.50, they're profitable. They don't need to go back to $10 for you to make a profit. And so you constantly use the algorithm, and it's simple because you do the same exact thing every time. Here's the way AIM would work. You set up a 1-page spreadsheet with 13 columns of information. Very simple. The key is this. Let's say you started with 20,000 worth of leaps. Well, then you would also start with 20,000 worth of cash. So you'd start with 40,000. And then the key control number is what I call, and Lochello calls, portfolio control. So right off the bat, if you own 20,000 of leaps after your initial buy, your portfolio control is 20,000. Then what I do with the leaps, I check the prices every day. So let's say tomorrow that stock goes way up and the leap goes way up. And now I see your leap value has gone from 20,000 to 30,000. Okay.
So that would mean 30,000 cash as well, or would you increase?
That would mean your leaps are worth 30,000, your cash, but you would compare, you'd say $1,000 leaps value or 20,000 portfolio control. Well, obviously the leaps are the leaps value is the higher number. So the way AIM works, you would say you would put 30,000 on top, you would subtract the 20,000 control number for portfolio control, and AIM would be telling you you have sell advice of $10,000. It's intensity driven. If the leaps had gone up to 40,000, you would go 40,000 minus 20,000. AIM wants you to sell 20,000 worth of leaps. Now, to make even more profits, Lochello came up with a brilliant idea called SAFE, which is always equal to 10% of your leaps value. So let's say that example with the 40,000, you would go 40,000 leaps value minus 20,000 portfolio control. AIM is giving you sell advice of 20,000. But then in order to get the market sell order, you subtract out the safe amount. So if the leaps value is 40,000, then the safe amount is 4,000. So you would go 20,000 minus 4,000, and AIM would be giving you sell advice of 16,000. The advantage of that is this: you hold back 4,000 because, and I can tell you times that money you held back and didn't sell when the leap was 40, you you were able to sell a week or two later when the stock was 50 and you made even more profits.
Wow.
So it's a very simple method that just involves arithmetic, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. There's no fancy Greeks. You can update a spreadsheet after a buy once you know how to do it, and it's very easy to learn in 5 minutes.
So I had two questions I wanted to ask. Number one, you obviously mentioned you recommend keeping separate spreadsheets of your portfolio. Why is
Right.
that? And then secondly, you recommend
Because,
people invest in leaps versus stocks, but leaps are more volatile.
okay, right.
So
There's two good reasons to invest in leaps. Call leverage and volatility. Here's the idea. On average, I prefer buying leaps at the money, which means if the stock is selling at 100, I want you to buy a leap that has a strike price of 200.
mhm,
Not 250, not 150, right about at what the stock is selling for. Okay.
mhm,
Now, here's the leverage part. Let's say, and this is a typical example, they all follow this pattern for the most part. Let's say Apple was selling at 200, okay, a share.
mhm.
If you wanted to buy 100 shares and the stock's at 200, you would need to spend
10,000.
$20,000 to own 100 shares. You look at the 26 leap, which has 2 years before it expires, you will find the price of that leap for the strike 200 is like $50. So you could control 100 shares of Apple by buying the leap for only $5,000. Right off the top, you save 15,000.
Yeah, no, I
Plus,
see.
the leaps on average are 5 times as volatile as the stock. So I don't know if you ever look at Yahoo Finance. Look at Yahoo Finance sometime. Go to, say, the option chain for leaps. Look for the 26 leaps, and right at the of every one of the option chain pages, you'll see the price of the stock.
Mhm,
Also, at the end of the day, or all day long, as a matter of fact, you will see how that stock is doing. And a typical day, you might see Apple is 200, it's down $2. The stock is, let's say, up 1%.
mhm,
Okay, boom. Then you go down and look at the 226 leaps. See, the leaps is up $1.50 and it's up 4%.
mhm,
So the stock was up 1%, the leap was up 4% for a 300% difference.
mhm.
And that pattern follows over and over. So on volatility.
See, no, and that extra capital, I would presume that you wouldn't spend on the stock itself. You could invest into other leaps as well for various different stocks.
No, you yeah, I mean, ideally, I tell people you'd want to own 10 different leaps. That's a good enough. No, you don't need to own more, but you might only have enough money to start with 2 or 3 leaps. Use the profits from the three you own, and maybe in a year or so, you'll be able to buy a fourth, and then a fifth, and then a sixth, and get to the point where you have 10. And I even have another way of doing AIM called lean AIM for people who have less money. So if you have less than $1,000 or say less than $5,000, you would want to do lean AIM. And what's the difference? I'll give you an example. I had a guy who liked Tesla. Well,
Mhm,
Tesla is pretty expensive stock, even now that it's down. It was 200 and say at the time it was $250 a share. Well, do proper regular AIM, can you 175 have 15 contracts of Tesla and half in cash. But what he did was this with lean AIM. I told him, you're going to buy one contract at the money for $5,000. So he's controlling 100 shares with one contract. As soon as you make a lien name buy, you immediately put in a lien name sell 25% higher. So he paid 5,000 for his leap. I told him put in a limit sell for 6,500. He got that sell a month later. So he made a $1,500 profit on that leap in 1 month, you know. So figure that out. If you annualize a 25% a month profit, that's like 300% a year average profit.
And so in terms of the limit sell price, how that 25, the limit sell price that you set, is that usually consistent enough? Because oh, I think he stepped out.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Is that usually consistent? Because when you do a sell, there's no guarantee that it'll be at that exact amount. So is the 25% kind of a leeway to guarantee profit?
Because I have found 25%, it's an easy number to remember, and it's a good profit, not super aggressive. And I've got a binder on my desk. I only invented lien aim last April. So I've been doing it for about, me and my clients have been doing it for about the last 9 months. Well, it's almost full. I have about 125 cells in that binder since April from me and my clients. And we have all made profits of over $200,000 on lien name since April. So I tell people you don't need to back test anything, because I have back tested it and it works like a charm. And you know, it's just, and I tell people, ideally, even if you had a lot of money, what would be good would be to have a combination of maybe 3 or 4 regular AIM and 3 or 4 lien AIM for the ones that are frightfully expensive, and you don't want to, you don't have 200,000 to do regular AIM with a Microsoft, an Apple, a Tesla, something like that. Those lend themselves because they're extremely volatile. Plus, the other interesting thing is with leaps, there are literally only 500 leaps on stocks in existence out of the 6,600 stocks that trade. Well, what I've found, and I get this, I actually had to compile my own list of leaps, because no financial institution compiles a list of leaps anymore.
wow.
The Chicago Board of Equity, CBOE, used to compile a list, but they don't anymore. So and if you want to, you need to send me your email address, and I can send you a whole bunch of AIM information, including a list of the leaps. And what I've done to make it easier for people is I didn't just list the 500 leaps. What I did was I highlighted in yellow all the stocks that have leaps that were selling for less than $25 a share. So you'd get lower cost leaps. I mean, there are good leaps you can buy that are less than $1. Look at Ford, for example. You could get a good leap on Ford at the money for about $1. So 15 contracts, would cost you $1,500 if you did that with AIM, and 1,500 cash. So for 3,000, you could do Ford leaps. Now, if you want to go bigger, you got the money, then give me 250,000 and I'll put you into Microsoft with 15 contracts and 15, and an equal amount of cash, because that would probably cost you 125,000 for the leaps, but still, here's the beauty of it. If you put in the 250,000 into Microsoft, if you had bought those same 1,500 contracts having no cash reserve, it would have cost you $500,000.
Yeah.
So for 250,000, you get the same number, control of the same number of shares, plus you have a cash cushion of
Yeah.
another 125,000 to buy more if the price goes down. And believe me, even great stocks like Microsoft will go down.
And that actually brings me on to my next question is, what's your opinion on the current state of the stock market given the economy right now, or the state of the economy?
I think the next year is going to be very good because inflation is coming under control and the Fed is not going to be raising interest rates, and they might even drop interest rates. Nothing seems to help the stock market more than lower interest rates from the Federal Reserve in America here. So I'm optimistic on it. Plus, here's something to think about. Okay. You really don't need to gauge what the overall stock market is doing when you're doing AIM. Because I don't know, if you got a notepad or something, you might want to jot this down.
Got one
Okay.
right next to me. Yes, I will.
Okay. There is a way on Yahoo Finance to check how an individual leap is doing. It's amazing. All you have to do is you go to this, you type in the symbol of a stock. Let's say a good example to look at would be TQQQ, which is an index that follows the NASDAQ 100 tech stocks. So in my list of 500 leaps I send for free to people, I have highlighted in green all leaps that are indexed from an indexed ETF. And there's about 30 or 40 of them, including TQQQ. And TQ leveraged, which means it's even more volatile than a leap. And my basic criteria, okay, if you type in TQQQ, what you will find, you will default to the summary page for the stock.
No problem. Yes.
And what you'll find, it highlights 1D above the chart because it defaults to 1 day. What you need to do when you look at the original summary page chart on the ETF is click on 1Y, and you'll see how the ETF has done
Throughout the
for
year.
1 year.
Yes.
Okay, boom. Now, and I look at things, what I love to do, and the beauty of Yahoo Finance is every page is the same. You go down the first column, an important piece of information to look at is it shows you the 52-week high and low price for the ETF or the stock. And you will find with TQQQ, you'll see like a low of 15, a high of 47. Great volatility in the ETF. Well, you even get greater volatility on the leap. So once you've done that, then right above the chart, you'll see a row with blue words in it, including the word options. You click on options. It defaults to the shortest term options, the January 24, which we don't want. But in that date box right above the start of the option chain, you will see a down arrow. You click on that down arrow and you look for January 16th, 2026, which are the leaps you want to buy. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you get to that 26 chain, they give you all the information at the very top of the. It shows you the current price of it has gone up or down and how much percentage-wise it's gone up or down. So you might look and see it's $50, down $2, we'll say, down, let's say 4%, for example. And then you can go down Then you scroll down the option chain for the 26s and you say, well, since the leap is at $50.10, we'll say, you're interested in a leap at the money. And I found round numbers work better. So you want 50, you don't want to buy the strike 49 or the strike 51. They just don't have level of ownership. And the ownership is confusing. They don't use ownership. There's a column called open interest. That is the number of contracts people own. So, and right to the left of it is a column, and it might show 10, 15, 20. That's the number of contracts that sold that day or got bought that day. I don't even know. But you're looking for one that has a minimum of, say, 1,000 contracts and looks like it trades every day, 10, 20, 30 type contracts.
Yeah.
And if you and you can see in there, especially
Oh, sorry, the signal
show
is
you how
not jumping out there.
so you'll see.
We just lost you for
Are
1
you
minute
looking
there.
at that on Yahoo Finance now?
I'm actually writing it down,
Sure.
but I just lost you because the signal had just gotten a bit bad, but I think it's stabilized, so you can continue. Sorry, just cut you off there for about a minute.
Okay, I'll stop for a minute.
No. I was saying it's stabilized now. You can continue. It's
Okay.
stabilized. Yeah.
Say the strike 49, you might see 100 options owned. You go to the strike 50, you'll see 100 owned, and you go to the strike 51, you might see 180 owned or something. So you're looking, and I normally gravitate to either the strike 100, the strike 125, the strike 150, 175, or 200. I don't normally use odd ones unless I see a large on a price that's near the money. I will wants to give me because I own.
Right. No, I hear you on that one. Are you still connected? I think you just froze slightly. Hello.
I see you.
Okay.
I see me in the screen.
Yeah. Apologies there.
Okay.
I think it's the signal on my end actually that was doing that, but it seems to have stabilized now. Apologies for
Where are you
that.
calling me from? Are you calling me from South Africa?
Yes, from South Africa.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
believe me, when I was your age, I wouldn't have expected to be able to do something like this.
Yeah, no.
We had a crank phone. We had to crank a phone and it was a party line. If you picked up the phone and someone else was talking, you couldn't even use the phone. We didn't even have our own individual phone number.
No,
You
definitely.
cannot believe how technology has changed
Yeah,
in your lifetime
it's come with
and in my lifetime.
it's come with its pros and cons. But sorry, Jeff, I had an interesting question. I don't know if you follow Peter Schiff. And he has been recommending that investors go bullish on gold, because he believes, and again, this is opinion, not necessarily truth. He believes that the value of the dollar is set to decrease, regardless of whether the Fed lowers or increases interest rates. I think he believes right now we are kind of stuck in a situation that's basically come post-COVID, with all the printing that happened then and even now.
Well, I mean, what I've found is okay. You along the lines of the dollar. Okay, a mere 93 years ago in 1930, the Dow Jones Industrial Average hit its all-time low of 41. One extremely small, wise investor was a gentleman named Bernard Gius. He still had money after the crash of 29 in the US stock market. How do we know he was because in 1931, when the Dow Jones did all-time low, he was, to my mind, the original AIM investor of all time, because the credo of AIM is buy low. Well, he calls up his stockbroker in 1931 and says, I want you to buy $10,000 worth of every stock on the Dow Jones Industrial Average, all 30 of them. Here's $300,000 to do that with, and 300,000 and like 10 million today, after inflation. Well, in the 93 years since the Dow was 41, it is now over 37,000. So even with inflation, he would have had more real dollars 93 years later than he would have purchase a loan for $1,000, made him a multi-millionaire. So what I tell people is, and here's some, inflation also affects stock prices. Stock prices go up somewhat just due to inflation.
Sorry, Jeff, I think we're just losing you on the signal here. So we might just need to pause for 1 minute, if that's okay. I just need to make sure this is stable.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, no, I think you managed to stabilize it, and sorry I cut you off there, but you can continue. I know it left off at that when inflation is an all-time high. If I did not,
and see, what I tell people is okay.
No, continue. Sorry.
Well, here's something to think. I tell. Are we on?
Yes, we're good. We're good. We're good now. It's stabled.
Okay. Bank, and in America, I don't know what it is in South Africa, but in America, banks pay you maybe 1.5% on a CD. Well, when inflation is 8% and you're earning 1.5%, you're not making a profit, you're losing money. But what I tell people is, I said, with AIM, I have a portfolio in AIM that I started with 1,200,000 18 years ago. In 18 years, that portfolio has grown to 26 million. So even if you cut in half because of inflation, your 1 million is still grown to 30 million, which still in this world, regardless of what inflation is doing. So my way of investing portfolio has averaged 115% average a year for 18 consecutive years in all kinds of markets, up, down, sideways. Inflation is not a problem. Gold, like you were talking about earlier, guess what? I can find you some leaps on gold ETFs, and that we don't have the problem of storage. If you own gold, what are you going to do with your gold bar? Leave it in your garage,
Fair
or are you
enough.
going to trust? I read about some depository that was storing like 100 million of gold, for people who had bought it, and somehow they got hacked. And when they went into the warehouse, there was no gold in there.
Wow.
The
Yes.
thieves were so brazen, they only stole the gold. They left all the silver because that wasn't worth it to them, even though, it's still valuable. I got a laugh out of that. So basically, all the people who had, 10, 20,000 in gold and silver maybe got back 1,000 worth of silver that had been stolen.
Wow. No,
So,
that's
you
a
got to
very good
think
point.
about things like that. Same with crypto, You even there, and I don't like that,
Mm.
I leaps the stock, E-Trade, Fidelity, all these big companies.
I'm not too sure what's.
Your gold can get stolen, your crypto can get stolen, but not
Mhm.
your stocks and leaps. So, you know, and for the average person, it's too exotic to think about buying precious metal. I could see, if you wanted to buy a Cougarant's a good, there you go, your coin,
Mhm.
of gold. But I think one Cougarand would probably be about $2,000, I think, right now, or ounce of gold.
Yes, no, it would
That
be.
to me, I would make sense, but like a gold bar weighs, I don't know, that might be 500,000 for all I know. So I don't think gold is practical for many people. Plus, what I don't like about, I like liquid investments. If I buy my stocks or leaps, I can instantaneously trade them. It's not like I own a house or a car and I'm trying to sell it. I have, and the beauty of what I do is I can automatically, every time I buy a leap, I can put in the next buy and sell price. And I don't even have to
Mhm.
worry about it because the broker is going to handle that for me.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I, I'll just put in a brief plug for me. If anybody out there would love more, because I can't cover all the topics in AIM, but if I've whetted your appetite and you'd like to learn more, go to my webpage, jjjinvesting.com, and I have lots of free material, and I have a couple books for sale, explaining AIM, showing you how it works. And I'd be glad to answer any questions if you give me a phone call
No,
after reading my material.
no, that actually moved into my next question of how people can register for one of your investment courses. And I was
Oh
going to
yeah,
ask.
and the good news is I am going to have a new investment course available in about 2 weeks. So all you need to do, you could email me at Jeff at jjjinvesting.biz, B-I-Z, and say, I'm interested in your course and free AIM material, and I will send you complete information on how to learn about this incredible AIM investing method. And I will proudly state I am the only person on the planet teaching this right now, since sadly Mr. Lucillo has passed away.
And do you work with individuals outside of the United States as well?
Yes, I do. Oh, yes. I have I've had investors in Australia, England, the Netherlands, and it's just a little harder to trade American stocks and options in some other countries. But I believe interactive brokers is one way you can do that.
Hmm.
So if you search around, you can find a way to trade American options, overseas. In fact, I
Um,
got my start with AIM when I was living and working in Germany, because I have 17 years of living in Germany, and I taught my very first class, Ramstein, Germany, to air soldiers, and I felt really good about that. I love helping those guys because they have a tough life. Believe me,
No,
you can't describe how tough their life can be, being uprooted all the time, every 2 or 3 halfway around the world, with
yeah.
all your possessions. It's very difficult.
No, and it's very, very kind and generous that you actually do that. And it also just shows you how well traveled you are in terms of
Right. I mean, yeah.
just,
And
uh,
and I've been writing, my newsletter for 31 years. And like I said, there's 7 model portfolios in that newsletter. All of them are making good profits. When you take a look, when you see them, and you'll see the actual leaps I'm using
Mhm.
in those portfolios, which will give you ideas. And when you write me, I'll send you a copy of my latest newsletter and you can see what it looks like. It's about 22 pages. It has a lot of, I list every month, I list good current leaps to consider buying. And again, I do AIM management for many people at very reasonable prices. And frankly, since most investors are either too lazy or too busy to keep track of their own investments, even though it takes 5 minutes a day, I used to marvel and say, how can there be people who are day traders who are willing to look at a computer screen 8 hours, how many minutes a day? So if you want to have high profits and a life at the same time, you want to do AIM and not day trading.
Oh, I definitely
It's
agree
just
with
that
you.
simple.
I agree with you on that one. And your new book you've released.
Plus, day traders, I don't think will live long enough to enjoy any profits they make anyway. And I read statistics that said 80 to 90% of all day traders lose money.
Yeah, no, it's
So,
definitely it's a tough.
whereas me sitting in this sunroom you see me at right now, with usually no shoes and no shirt, because we had about 30 straight days last summer where the temperature was over 100 degrees, 40 degrees Celsius, and thank God I have an air conditioner in my sunroom because it's like a greenhouse. It gets very hot in here, believe me.
Yeah,
And
it looks
now,
like
and
it looked like
so,
it.
so I tell people, I say, if I can sit here and make people $10 million, and they're smaller investors. I finally, this week, I got my first $1 million investor. I have one guy who's doing AIM with $1,050,000.
Wow.
So, that's a vote of confidence. And I have another, he's a pilot, airline pilot, and I have another pilot who's going to sign up Monday or Tuesday, and he's going to put in 200,000. So I've made people over 10 million, and I'd say I'm managing over 10 million right now.
Wow.
I've
Wow.
got a pile of spreadsheets on my desk that I look at every day that has over 10 million worth of leaps.
Wow.
And they're happy because they're making lots of money.
No.
So I tell people, I say, I'm probably the greatest one-man band who operates from a room with no shoes and no shirt in the entire investing world.
No, and even
And
the way you've run
and,
through.
and I let and you cannot free advice I give to people. Anybody who calls me up will get all sorts of free AIM investing advice, and I might talk with, and I don't earn any money. So it's the old joke, my business is a nonprofit, but it wasn't meant to be a nonprofit. It was multiple, but I'm just such a nice guy. I want to help everybody. And until you become a client, I'm not going for money, you
No,
know.
I hear you, and I just realized we're
And
actually short on time. The recording has like a set time limit, unfortunately.
Okay,
But no, I was going to ask before your books. I know you have written quite a few books, and I do think there'll be people that
right.
want to get access to them.
Sure, let me show you here. Okay.
No.
Like I said, if you write me your first book for free, here's one book I've written. I don't know if you can see the correct print. It reverses it on mine.
No, it's here. The
Here are the
customer's yours.
customer's yachts.
Yeah.
And here's the best book, Aim for Millions with Stock Options. So these are the two books that are for sale on Amazon.
All
So if you
right.
wanted to find my books, you could go to Amazon, search Jeffrey, F-F-R-E-Y Weber, and you can find my two books, the ones for sale. Website, jjjinvesting.com. You could also order them or tell me you would like my first book for free, and I'll send you my first book for free and 10 very short articles, including a really good one that's a 5-minute read that explains lean aim. So again, write to Jeff at jjjinvesting.biz, and I can tell me you want my free book, and I will send you all of that material.
Oh, wow. No, definitely. Unfortunately, we're actually short on time, but it'll be definitely good to have you on again. I know that you
Yeah, I'd
want
love to
to,
be on again.
yeah, no, definitely a lot to take in. I apologize for the signal disruption. It is what it is. Couldn't work our way around it, but
Yeah.
again, maybe next time the internet will be more cooperative.
Yeah, and just let me know when you're going to post this.
Yes,
You're
100%.
going to, yeah, and
100%.
then let me know, and I'll tell people how to get to your podcast, and maybe bring you a few more customers.
No, I definitely appreciate it. And I definitely know that there's some people in my audience who are very investment oriented that can definitely benefit from your services and what you offer. I think it's definitely a unique approach that's not normally, I think people in my demographic and generation particularly are more interested in day trading, Bitcoin, so I think you just bringing awareness to the AIM technique and method and the success behind it will definitely maybe help shift
But
people's
all people
focus.
should realize the bottom line with investing is to make the highest profits. And
100%.
so, you know, do those do day trading as a hobby and do AIM for a living. That's what I like to tell people, you know.
Oh no, but no, Jeff, it's really been good having you on. Thank you for giving your time, and yeah, it'll be good to have you on the podcast again. I don't know if it cut out. Is he still there? All right, give it some time. Hello, are you still there? Ooh.
You froze up. Green.
Oh, I froze over. I think it was me who froze over again.